Hi there, everybody, and welcome to the Toon Review YouTube channel for today's daily news, of course, ahead of tonight's big Premier League clash at Stamford Bridge, where Newcastle United face Chelsea. And, of course, you can catch the live commentary right here on Matchday Live, starting from 7:30 right here on this channel. But it doesn't stop the news stories coming in at Newcastle United, so we'll get cracking on those in a moment. But if you do enjoy today's show, guys, don't forget to give it the thumbs up. And, of course, if you're new and you like what you see, come and be part of this amazing community on the Toon Review by hitting that subscribe button, which is free to do so. And don't forget to hit the notification bell as well, which will let you know when we upload any videos such as this one, or we schedule in our live shows. So thank you very much for doing that. Right, let's get into the stories. And as you can see there, the first headline, Kelly wants to join Newcastle United. Now, of course, Lloyd Kelly, the left back from Bournemouth, very, very interested in joining Newcastle United. His contract runs out at the end of this season, so he is free to discuss contracts with any other clubs. And it looks like Newcastle United could well be his destination. Now, many people say, oh, another left back. But listen, we're struggling for left-backs, aren't we, at the minute? Let's be honest, Lewis Hall isn't at the grade, obviously, that Eddie wants him to be for left-back. However, I still think that Lewis Hall is probably been developed into maybe a midfielder or another position, which is why we haven't seen him too much at left-back so far since his loan deal was signed from Chelsea, of course. Dan Burn is probably coming to the end of his career, certainly at this level. I think, Dan Burn's done wonderfully well since coming into the club. There's no doubt about that, but he is struggling a little bit this season. Some games he's okay, some he isn't. Newcastle United are looking for a stable left back. Now, Ben Jacobs, the journalist, has reported that it might be a good option for Newcastle United on a budget side of things as well, because Kelly wouldn't cost any transfer fee. He'd be coming in on a free, so there'd only be the signing on fee and, of course, his wages to pay for. That may then keep funds available for other positions within the first team squad. We know there's other positions that need recruitment, certainly a striker, possibly a right-sided forward as well. Miggy and Murphy, are they the future of Newcastle United in that position? I don't think they are. Another midfielder maybe, although we are going to be very strong in midfield when we have Joe Linton, Tonali, etc. back next season. But it does free up that option. And I don't always agree with Ben Jacobs, but I think looking at the Lloyd Kelly situation, to bring him in, he's 25 years old, he's got great experience in the Premier League. And as we've seen against Newcastle United, he has done very, very well, looks a very competent left back. And that would free up a lot of money to go elsewhere for other positions. So from a budget point of view, for me, that would be a very, very good acquisition as well. I think Lloyd Kelly is an excellent player. I think he's got good experience. I think he fit right into the side, no problem at all. And apparently, negotiations are ongoing with the players' representatives. So Lloyd Kelly could well become a Newcastle United player, could well sign a deal with Newcastle United, of course, before the end of the season. He is free to do so because of the Bosman rule, of course. He's got less than 6 months left on his contract. He can sign for Newcastle United whenever he wants. Now, Bournemouth fans may not like that, but I think Bournemouth fans are probably resigned to the fact that they're going to lose Lloyd Kelly because of the fact that he hasn't signed an extension or a new contract with that club at present. So when Newcastle United comes calling and Lloyd Kelly's interested, I think it's just a matter of the two sides sitting down, negotiating terms. And we could well hear that announcement before the end of the season. Lloyd Kelly could turn around and say, I've signed for Newcastle United for next season, finish the season with Bournemouth strongly, and then say his goodbyes, and then on to Newcastle United from next season. So for me, I'd like Lloyd Kelly. It's a very, very good deal in my opinion. Yes, is there better left backs out there? Probably, of course there is. But at the same time, you've got to think of the budget side of it. And I think Ben Jacobs is right with what he says. I really do. The budget side of it, sign him on a free, it keeps the money for other positions, which we know we desperately need to replace in this coming summer transfer window. Newcastle United announced a few days ago, or last week if you like, that they were going to look to an external company to bring in their next sporting director. They were handing over the reins to this company to look and interview potential candidates. Now, two of those candidates we've already covered on our show have been mentioned by the company as potential replacements for Dan Ashworth. So we've been doing a series of possible replacements, and the two we've done so far are the ones that have been mentioned. Now, another guy has thrown his hat into the ring this morning, and that is Thiago Pinto. Now, he is Portuguese, but he's only 39 years old. He's relatively young when it comes to these sort of positions, and he's got a very good CV. He spent the last 3 years at Roma, and also before that he was at Benfica. So he's won trophies at both clubs already with some of the talent that he's brought in. Now, he said that the Premier League is his dream destination, and that when a club like Newcastle United comes calling, they're a very big club and you want to speak to them. So he is very interested clearly in the job. Now, I'm not saying for 1 second that Newcastle United are interested in Pinto himself. There's been no links from the club to this guy. However, we don't know what this external company are looking at. We don't know the criteria that Newcastle have given them to bring in this new guy, whether it's an experienced guy or somebody a bit younger. But it's got to be somebody who wants to complete the process. Dan Ashworth came in, started the process, but then jumped ship, bottled it, as far as I'm concerned. You know, Man United come calling and he said, oh, Man United, the grass is greener. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's not. But obviously, I said in many, many different shows when Dan Ashworth went on gardening leave that, you know what, there's probably just as good, if not better, sporting directors out there that Newcastle United can bring in. Now, Pinto's worked with Mourinho as well, so he's had apparently a very good relationship with him before it all went to a pot for Mourinho at Roma. But the one thing that raises alarm bells with me with Pinto is he left because of the stresses of the job. He said he needed to take a break because it was a very intense atmosphere at Roma. Now, you can understand in a way Italian football is pretty much very different to what it is over here. You know, the way things are done in Italy are different to over here in the Premier League. But, you know, whoever comes in to replace Dan Ashworth is going to be under pressure from the off. You know, this person has got to get it right from the word go, with not just recruitment for the first team, but the academy, etc. It's got to be done properly. And this guy, whoever comes in, is going to be under pressure to do that. Now, we've covered two guys already on our series of who could replace Ashworth. They are apparently linked with the club as well. So, are they better than Pinto? Possibly. But we'll probably take, if Pinto does start getting links to the club, then we'll probably take a look at him in one of our Dan Ashworth replacement shows. But at the moment, this is very much Pinto just talking about Newcastle United. He said he's very familiar with the history of Newcastle United because of Sir Bobby Robson. So obviously Mourinho has spoken to him about Sir Bobby, etc., and Newcastle United. So he's well up to date on the history and what Newcastle United want to do in the future. He's mentioned the new owners and how ambitious they are. I'm not sure, again, whether there's been any contact between the club or this external company and Pinto. We don't know. But he wants to be in the Premier League. He's very impressed with what Newcastle United could offer. So he is a potential replacement again for the outgoing Dan Ashworth. Now, moving on to a bit of transfer news, and we'll talk about a couple of outgoings that have been reported in the media this morning. Absolutely crazy outgoings, if you ask me. This isn't going to happen, by the way. I'd be astonished. Chelsea are thinking about a double swoop for not only Bruno, but also Sven Botman. Now, we know Chelsea, they're literally linked with every player in the world who any other club in the Premier League is linked with. You always see the name and Chelsea. Now, it's difficult for Chelsea now because they are restricted by these new PSR rules. And for me, they won't be able to afford Bruno and Botman. You think Bruno's release contract, yes, they could pay that. However, Botman has probably doubled, if not tripled, in valuation since we signed him. Yes, he's been a little struggling for form since he's come back from injury, but we know what this guy's capable of. And I personally see Sven Botman as a future captain of Newcastle United. I don't know about you, but I just think he will be the ultimate leader for years to come. That said, we always have to expect this, guys, now with where Newcastle United want to be. The more we bring in these elite players, the more they will be linked with other clubs as well. Now, for me, gone are the days where Newcastle United are a stepping stone for any club. You know, when we used to sign these players and we used to build them up, the value went up and then we'd sell them on under Mike Ashley. That's not the case anymore. We want to bring elite players into Newcastle to stay at Newcastle United and become an elite club. So these reports about Botman and Bruno, I laughed when I read it, to be honest. But, the fact is we have to get used to it. When these big players come into Newcastle United and they have a season or 2 seasons here, they're always going to be linked with other teams until the media accept that Newcastle United will be in that elite team, mini table at the top. Because the media still won't accept it and still think that Newcastle United might become some stepping stone for these players. That's long gone. But until they start thinking a bit differently about Newcastle United as an elite side. They're always going to link our top players with other teams in the Premier League. Now, Bruno himself speaks very highly of Newcastle United. I don't see him going in the summer. I think he's going to, even if we don't get to Europe, I think we'll get another season out of Bruno and then see where we are. If we're in the Champions League again, etc., he won't move. Botman, as I said, I see him as a Newcastle United captain in years to come. So I'm not really worried about Chelsea. But let me know in the comments, are you worried about Chelsea taking any of our players? Because for me, Bruno's got his eyes on Real Madrid, etc. in the future. Botman, is that really a club he wants to go to? I mean, Chelsea are below us in the table at the moment. It's not a stepping stone. That's a certainty. So what do you think anyway? Let me know in the comments below. And finally, a player that Newcastle United are very interested in is Pedro Neto from Wolves. This is a guy who we've seen a couple of times this season have very bad injury luck against Newcastle. Hasn't lasted the 90 minutes, but has done an awesome job for Wolves since he's been there. Now, Wolves under O'Neill have done very, very well this season. I think they're a very balanced side. Obviously, we tonked them last week, but they responded with a good result. And I think now, where Wolves are, I think Pedro Neto's looking at a bigger club to go to win some trophies. Now, Neto is actually incredibly very well experienced. He's only 24 years old, but he's actually made, I think it's 134 appearances already for Wolves, which is staggering. You know, this guy seems to have been around for a long, long time, but he's still only 24. A bit like Neves was. You know, you looked at Ruben Neves when he was at Wolves and you thought, wow, he must be about 30 now, and he's only he wasn't even 25. So incredible how these Wolves have picked these Portuguese players in, and they've done remarkably well since they've been at the club. And that's no different from Pedro Neto. What I will say is Liverpool also may be in the market for him because they're expecting to lose Mo Salah in the summer. Obviously, his destination is probably going to be Saudi Arabia, let's be honest. And Liverpool need a replacement. And they've been big fans of Neto for quite some time now. But, of course, Jurgen Klopp is leaving the club in the summer. So a new manager will come in. Now, whether that new manager at Liverpool is going to be interested in Pedro Neto is a different kettle of fish. And I think that's what the media are missing out on here when they're reporting it. They say Liverpool are interested in him, but they're losing their manager in the summer, and the new manager might not fancy Neto. But they probably will be looking for a replacement for Mo Salah, who is 95% nailed on to be leaving the club in the summer, although we've said that before, and he's ended up staying. So who actually bloody knows? Now, Transfermarkt have got Neto down at a value of 36 million quid. I think that's a long way off the mark, guys. I think you're probably looking at maybe double that for Neto. But he's somebody that would excite me. You know, coming in, replacing Almiron and Murphy on that side. You know, he'd instantly become first choice on that right side ahead of those two. So for me, it's a no-brainer to go for Neto, but it's whether we can afford him. But this is when we go back to Lloyd Kelly. Bringing him in as a free will keep the funds for other positions like a striker and a right-sided forward. So I'd really like Pedro Neto at Newcastle United. I think a lot of Newcastle fans would. But it looks like we're going to have to, as usual, battle with a lot of other clubs for his signature. But there you go, guys. That is some of the daily news today. Don't forget, we're back tonight, 7:30. Me and Billy with Matchday Live, of course. Full commentary from Stamford Bridge of the Premier League clash against Chelsea. But if you have enjoyed this show, guys, please do give it the thumbs up, as I said at the start. And if you're new and you like what you see, do subscribe. And also, don't forget to hit that notification bell, which will let you know when we upload any videos such as this, or we schedule in our live shows. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, folks, and we'll see you for Matchday Live tonight at 7:30. Take care.